Welcome to the Peoria Art Guild and our newest exhibition in our Project Space Gallery, American Glory. We have William Harroff here, and why don't you introduce yourself first, sir?
Well, my wife and I are both book artists from Edwardsville, just downstate a little bit. And this was all born in Logavarten, Iceland. And so if you have time for a short story, the short story is that we were able to spend 10 weeks in Logavarten, which is just a beautiful place in Iceland. And I was negotiating with one of the universities upstate to have a big show and several good things come, and it all collapsed. And we were in the midst of our residency, and I was very disappointed. Well, we also were having very bad weather for August in Iceland. And so one day it brightened up. I climbed the mountain and nearly fell to my death. For people that are flatlanders, you should never climb alone. I climbed alone and almost paid the ultimate price for that. The third thing that happened, that the reason why I brought up this story, is that then in those 3 days, it was the last day to apply to the Illinois Arts Council for a Creative Catalyst grant. Well, I said, I've always wanted to start with some kind of new work. What could it be? That's what American Glory is. And luckily I was able to get it, and that's, these are from seed to artwork from our home in Edwardsville.
Okay, great. And the initial, we're going to start over here and look a little bit about these. I will say, since it is July, we are a little cheeky here, but we have red, white, and blue for the entire thing, and that's why it's American Glory. But what did they start as? What kind of prints were these?
So these are what are called vector graphics. And so they start as photographs, and then the vector part is that we kind of change the entire space that we're looking at, and it becomes geometric shapes and points and curves and all kinds of things like that. And then it's a hybrid with drawing, that then I have a series of different layers that I can put together and draw and manipulate as I go along. So that's how each of them is created. And I love red, white, and blue, but I like better the kind of red and blue where it's almost the same value.
Yeah.
Because it creates such a field of energy.
Well, and I think it's such a rich color, especially like the red. And the red is obviously the dominant color here.
It is.
But the other thing that I think is so amazing is that some of these are very relatable to one another. They sometimes almost mirror the images. But like this one is by far the least complicated. It's the starkest image we have here.
It is.
And what did this end up going from here to where?
Yes, so what happened was that I take photographs of the morning glories almost any time of day, because at 3 a.m. they wake up and start doing things. So I await, and we have such bright light that comes in at the earliest morning, and so it just pours in. Even though this was a blue morning glory, it just poured the light in, and so it became this white that became so dominant with it.
Almost and like it's backlit, and it's just
almost like it's backlit. Yes, and we have beautiful trees on our property, and so we also have all those cast darkness behind, and you'll see the richness of our little forest behind many of them.
Well, and I love in these two, you start to introduce gray as a wonderful neutral. And again, value is everything, because it is at the same tone value-wise as the blue, the gray, even the white, because the white is not truly a bright white, so that it's not glaring in any way, shape, or form. And I love the texture, because I think when you have more of these small little doodles, so just out of respect, all these little fragments that are here, that it gives a little bit of texture, where here we see it, and all of a sudden we have this wonderful just space that's just red and rich as can be, and then we have the negative. I think a lot of the things that we see here are very relatable to like silk screening too. And silk screens are produced by layering.
Yes.
And I think that that's what the commonality between the two is, that you get the same effect. And I really do. And how do you determine, I mean, the negatives or positive, the negative space, even though it's the most prominent, is the red here. But over here, we've got it so that it's dropped out, and we have the gray tends to come forward a
Well,
little
I
bit.
love that. I grew up as a painter, and I kind of knew all along that I was going to be a very mediocre painter, but I pay attention to painting, and I love good painting. And a lot of the tricks with the red and blue and gray, that all comes directly out of my experience with painting. And then I love design. And so anything I can do to say, oh, what would switch that up? And so this is actually with the roof of my garden shed. And so that causes a whole new kind of pattern to come into it.
And I think, and then here we have just the opposite as far as the blue becomes the dominant color. And it just is a wonderful, very organic shape.
Yes.
It's a flower, so it's going to be.
Yes.
But I really like, and then you have these dropouts here. And it just really gives it a very graphic sense about it. But at the same time, you've got all this little debris that's coming down here. And it makes it much more interesting than if it were just a simple silk screen where the power of the silk screen is the wonderful layers, and they're velvety, even layers. And this disrupts it just enough that it really makes things kind of...
You have such an excellent eye. But yes, those are all the kinds of things that I was looking at as I created these pieces.
And when do you determine, like this is a perfect example of, when do you determine, I'm going to add a little color here, I'm not going to do anything more than have this wonderful vertical, just hinted, because you've got these dashes here. How do you set your design for each work?
So luckily, because Morning Glories at their heart are so graphic themselves and have these beautiful star patterns that emerge from the center, that a lot of it is nature born, but I am an abstractionist too. And so I really try to take things down and get it far enough away from them when I'm looking at an image like this, so that I forget about the flower and just see shapes and forms moving. And that's how I arrive at it.
Do you do any sketching whatsoever?
Yes.
With some of these?
Oh, yes.
So
Definitely.
basically you're a lot like Ellsworth Kelly as far as he used to do so many drawings of leaves and flowers and plant life in general, and which had nothing to do with his actual work in the end. But it was that he loved that smooth and organic line that just was so rich from nature. And these are all rich from nature. I think in this series that we put the 5 of these here, I love this fact that this is this way, but then you come down here and it's again. So we are kind of, and we intentionally didn't put them next to each other. Being a twin, I don't want to mirror things too much. It just is a bit much for me. But I really do like how you changed up the tone, I guess is the best way. The sentiment of that, of each print is unique, and it's really remarkable. And for those who are also, when you come, you'll see that the number, and these are not necessary, are these sequential? Or is this just randomly?
It was done for this particular exhibition.
Yeah.
Otherwise, no, the numbers, I'm just creating one after one after one after one. So.
And the TP, is that for trial proof?
Yes, it is.
So that's a trial proof.
They're still all in development. Luckily, we work with Nova Color, probably the best printer in St. Louis. And so we're getting to places that I really enjoy. And I would bring out that, again, the vines and the heart-shaped leaves of Morning Glories are just so
well. I
beautiful.
love the arc that you get here. That's just very subtle. But then we have the arc coming the other way, and so it becomes more like it's spiraling downward, so to speak.
Yes.
And so we have this with the white as the force of energy that you're putting into it. It seems like, and I love the fact that. And then you just have a little, just to give you neutral color, but we're going to complete that circle, so to speak, just by doing that.
Yeah.
I think the other thing is that you were also in the 39th Bradley International Print and
I
Drawing.
was
And so as a printmaker, and you as a printmaker, I know that you have this great sensibility towards multiples and changing them up just ever so slightly. Because a lot of people
Yes.
do believe that a print is a print is a print and that they're all identical. And they're not. Each time you pull a print, it's going to be unique.
I learned so much, and I'm so blessed with this gentleman, Joe at Novacolor, that he is just on top of it. He's been doing it for 50 years. He loves artists, and so we just play off one another, and it's fun.
Yeah,
It's
it
just
really
fun.
is. I have to mention, this is the one that has probably the hardest edge
Yes.
in the whole thing.
Yes.
Even though it's a softened corner in this, I mean, both of these parts, elements. But when, do you crop then? Sometimes do you start with an image and you make it and then think, oh, I need to crop. I think it's too busy, or we don't need that amount of rest.
I do
so to
that.
speak.
I try not to do much of it, but there are times, and this is one of those times, when our trellises in the backyard can get overwhelming. And for me, since we live just outside St. Louis,
Yes.
of course, I'm all the time, I can't get away from the arch and that beautiful shape and form. And so that's kind of my
And
little
it's
way.
familiar.
It
We
is
can't get
familiar.
away. And we have a sculpture on the sculpture walk, and the Nordine brothers were there for quite a while, and they
Oh.
said, that like 3 or 4 months,
Okay.
working, and it's like you just can't help yourself.
No,
It's so
you can't.
prominent and so evident that you
Yes.
have to be aware of it no matter what.
Kind of beyond iconic.
And I think these 3 horizontals are really incredible. This is probably the most unique one only because it's so different and it's so blue, so very, very blue. And again, it almost is like Motherwell as far as there's this wonderful looseness to the edges in particular. And that you've got these, but appear to be rather random kind of quick gestures.
And it is that way. And as I do it, even electronically, I so appreciate that. This is one of my favorites because it's so different. And because I see that sea of blue and how they can, with dozens of them that might appear one morning, that they just merge into one another.
Yeah.
And it's just, again, this all
It's
starts
very
with
exciting, and this is probably
beauty
the
of-
most abstracted of all the works in there. You can search out to find the Morning Glory, but it's really hidden very well. And I think that kind of takes the back seat to what the other prints are all about. And this one is the same way as far as we've got all of this wonderful background that's working and working. And I love the angle at which you put these, because it just kind of sweet. I hate to say it's typical Japanese as far as bringing it right off of the, letting it drop off the page or coming onto the page. And so we have that. And then you have, again, these wonderful not random, but they're very gestural and they're very loose and almost impulsive mark making. And
Yes, impulsive is a good word. And this, for me, is so important because this is what my mom did as I was a little boy growing up. This is the roof, again, of our garden shed. And so that's why you have those wonderful tiles and the shapes and the vines coming in. But my mom would weave these back and forth over our garage. And I'd have these sea of morning glories that I would look up into against the beautiful sky. And
our mother loved Morning Glories too. I think it's a generational thing. and
Maybe
everything.
so.
I think, and then here's another one, and again, more like Motherwell's collages than anything. You've got you've got gray that's popping out here, but then you put a blue on top of it, then you put the red on top of that, and I don't know where the white came from, if it was first or it's last or whatever. And I think that keeps it fresh and alive.
Thank you. Well, that's, of course, as the Morning Glory is beginning to open, this is very early in the day, so.
Well, I think we have here some books. I also want to mention the fact that you were one of the wonderful and rare opportunities working with the Illinois Arts Council to fund a complete project like this. And we are so grateful that the state of Illinois still has a
absolutely.
very vital and strong Illinois Arts
Oh my
Council
gosh.
that's giving out artist grants to people for all different reasons. And it really is, it's an honor, I know for
It is.
you, but it's also an honor that we get to be able to promote it and to
Yes.
exhibit it in this way.
Yes.
The other thing that we do have here is we have a few of your books.
Right.
So if you want to just quickly talk a little bit
Sure.
about the books.
Absolutely. So this is a great example of what I saw as that little boy looking up at the sky in Indiana, that how the beautiful heavenly blues, as they're called, just mirror the sky so often, and it's fantastic that way. And so this is the initial book called I Am a Morning Glory, because I do relate so strongly to being a morning glory. And then, of course, we have a book devoted to American glory, and is filled with a lot of the images that you see here. But
And a few others too, I might add, so that.
the point of each of the books is that it's a different time of day, as I interpret it. And so this is called Daybreak Glory, and you see that, again, that kind of harsh light, first light of the day. But especially when we look at abstraction and these are a lot of close-ups, I use a lot of the heavenly blues here as they relate page to page to one another. And I just adore working with different shapes. I'm an old...
And was this the first book that you actually did?
No, that
No,
was
but-
that was American Glory. I knew I had a good idea, and so I wanted to follow that and complete that first. And you see that many times I'll try to get as close up into the flower as I possibly can as well.
Well, this reminds me so much of the German expressionists and their mark making, I should say, you know, and gives you that kind of idea that Max Beckmann and some of those artists did, that were very direct, very strong, very heavy-handed, and which is so unlike the other books. And I think that's wonderful that you can just choose to document in whatever's appropriate at that time.
And it's because I'm having so much fun. And this one is called Twilight Glory. And so, of course, a giant color shift with the last light of the day. And I have several friends that this is their favorite book because I just adore those purples and ochres and pumpkin-like colors. It's organic on its own. I love Art Nouveau. I can't get away from that. And so many of those kinds of patterns you see in that particular book.
Well, thank you so very much. The books are available here. You do need to talk to our gallery assistant because those are going to be by order, not as taking one off the wall, so to speak. But William, thank you so much. We so appreciate it. Please come and join us for the month of July here at the American Glory in our Project Space Gallery. Thank you.
Thank you.